Hello team and welcome back to another Line Warcast. This is your map today. A little bit of island action and trade routes everywhere on this map. It's a 2v2 between Bigler in blue and Desiring Mars 102 in red, and Infenzia in orange and Antidote in teal for Bravo team. Alpha team's going to spawn on the left hand side of what is the most major landmass in the game, this northern island. And Bravo team Infenzia is going to be spawning to the right. Antidote is right beside Infenzia, so both players, both teams spawning very close. This is Alpha team's vision. They'll see that Antidote is here immediately. And vice versa for Bravo team, seeing that Bigler is right here. 3 barracks, a dock, and a town for Desiring Mars in red. 3 factories and a barracks for blue, all going artillery at the moment, and a second factory as second barracks as a follow-up. And 5 barracks and an industry for Antidote. Infanzia's got an airport building helicopters, a factory, and a barracks. And what we will expect to be is a very large land battle to start and potentially end this game, depending on how this goes. Bigler's making a 4th factory at the very back of this territory, in and amongst Desiring Mars's production, who's putting down another factory, or rather their first factory of the game. Bigler's going to dig in, which will prevent Antidote and Infenzia just from rushing through here and jumping on all of Blue's production. And Desiring Mars is the first player in the game to build a unit that could get them off of this main landmass, and that's what's going to happen with this one transport boat. At some point sending infantry across, or just capping at the moment. Infenzia is following up with 3 industry, so orange will get a good eco boost from that. And right now we just watch the Skittles fight. Teal and orange are on the same team, red and blue are on the same team. And defender's advantage for blue will be very nice because these first artillery pieces are going to get in the fight. There's enough red and blue artillery, or infantry, in front of these artillery pieces to act as a nice meat shield, so these blue big guns can go to work. First helicopter for Infenzia is going to be able to deal with these artillery pieces. And a dock now for Antidote after the 5 barracks opener. Here comes this first helicopter, quite the fight here. But now there's going to be 5 artillery pieces that are alive after this helicopter's done with this 6th. Which is still enough for blue to probably repel what orange and teal have brought here. And a cruiser for Desiring Mars at this point, which could post up close to the shore and help out in attacking these infantry. First artillery pieces for Bravo team are getting in play. These are Infanzia's orange artillery pieces off of this one factory. More helicopters from Infenzia as well. And now a switch into SAMs from blue out of the top 3 factories. And we can see just how effective these artillery pieces for blue are with this meat shield of the red infantry. This helicopter is going to get another run-in before there's any SAMs that are complete. The second helicopter might be able to do so as well. Once there's 3 SAMs, 2 helicopters taking on 3 SAMs is a little bit dicey. And then of course blue will look to continue to grow the SAM count. And Infenzia is going to start to dig in. We'll see if Antidote follows suit or just keeps their infantry grouped up and potentially flank. It is going to be a dig in from Antidote. No movement to any other islands except for this cross spawn that Desiring Mars already had from the beginning of the game with this 4 infantry group capping. Here comes the first SAMs. The helicopters for orange will have to dip. This becomes a little bit of a difficult situation for red and blue because now the defensive line is on the other team's side, and it'll be difficult for them to push through this without taking a bunch of losses. There's no tanks on the way as of yet for either player, for any of the players really. And potentially red will be able to build some tanks because they will be the first one to actually get a refinery going. I suppose Infenzia has a refinery up in the north here and starting to cap what is another territory that they can build a refinery on. A mix of commandos in here for blue, but the blue artillery doing the bulk of the damage. And a little bit of a stalemate on the center part of the map. Second factory now for Infenzia, who's building a cruiser and continues to build helicopters. Great use of the helicopters from Infenzia in the south here to focus on an unprotected town with the 3 SAMs up to the north. And just based on how many artillery pieces there are for blue off of these 4 factories, slowly Alpha Team's pushing forward. I mean, these are the lines that all the players are working with. Very defensive posture from Bravo Team and a push posture from Alpha Team. Slowly it is becoming a lot of artillery pieces that Bravo Team will need to deal with. Still no factory from Antidote, who has 2 destroyers in the north capping this water territory and will be able to try to deny this refinery for Desiring, who is only using it for boats, not using it for tanks quite yet. And Bravo Team is going to back up again. And Antidote might not actually dig in here and just keep these infantry ready to pounce on all these artillery pieces. And this is the game state. Helicopter and cruiser for Infenzia will take out that town. That's a great play from Bravo Team. No other movement on anywhere else on the map, except for here, which was... must be a cross pick from Antidote. Through this territory from the beginning of the game. And at this point, Antidote's going to run forward with this move command of infantry to try to get on these artillery pieces. Unfortunately for these teal infantry, all of the red and blue artillery pieces are already deployed. So it's going to be a tough situation for teal to push forward at this blob. At this point, Antidote's navy is on the left-hand side. Infenzia is also going to loop this cruiser around and start attacking these blue dots. A little bit of a sketchy situation for teal with this blue army and red units as well bearing down on the starting location. Antidote's built a depot. Likely going to connect this to Infenzia's refinery at some point. And this depot will be important to be able to keep these boats moving. Antidote's going to start trying to cap this water territory. This is a very scary territory to actually build a refinery just because it's so close to Red's docks. The cruisers for Red rush back to try to deal with Infenzia's cruiser, which is targeting this dock, and we saw earlier that 3 infantry and 1 blue commando got across on that Red transport boat. It's going to be 3 SAMs at the front to deal with these 2 orange helicopters. And you can see just how quickly these SAMs are going to get rid of this helicopter. Force it back and then also destroy it. Movement from Bravo Team and try to destroy this refinery. They certainly will before these 2 red cruisers and 1 missile boat are able to stop the boats. And now the first factory from Antidote. It is a lot of artillery though at this point. Infenzia is going to start pushing from their starting base on the right side of this army, which will hopefully buy enough time for Antidote to only lose what was 2 barracks. Or potentially even 1 barracks. I'm not sure if there's another barracks on this left-hand side. The boats actually don't destroy that refinery, which is a big defense from Alpha Team. Desiring Mars has taken this entire southern island. There's still so many islands on this map that teams can jump to. But it's a quite intense fight at the starting locations on land. Antidote's still hanging on just barely. And Infenzia is now going to use these helicopters to destroy some of the factories. Potentially we'll get one. There's no SAMs here for blue, which is really big for Infensi to be able to jump in and destroy that factory. And now these 2 docks for desiring are up and operational. Red is going to lose this refinery though. This orange cruiser is going to be able to backstab it probably in time, but of course I said that the last time that Bravo team was attacking that refinery. So we'll have to see. The nice thing for Antidote is that they're going to be able to rebuild a building on this northern island if their entire starting base were to get wiped out, so they shouldn't be they shouldn't be knocked out of the game. And Fenzi is going to cut off these reinforcements with this blob of artillery. So all of this stuff that's north of this army for Orange will be able to continue focusing on Antidote's base, and they will be able to work through it unless there's any helicopters or some other saving grace for Antidote, who desperately throws down another factory. And Fenzi actually does not destroy that refinery. So great defense from Red. The blue SAMs are now in position with force the helicopters back. At least the first one was going back. Second one does as well. And desiring capping on the left hand side, we can actually check the ecos, which are so important. Blue at 280, red at 420, Infenzia and Orange at 500, and Antidote at 410. So Antidote's income is actually relatively decent. They're going to build a submarine pen on this northern island. Their starting base will be entirely destroyed, which is going to leave them with just 2 cruisers and a destroyer for the Navy. Infenzia has a bunch of these industry set up for them, which is why Orange has the highest econ in the game at the moment. Or a reason why. I mean, Infenzia has also done a good job to cap to the north of their starting position. But clearly Antidote is in a lot of trouble. We'll be down to just 1 submarine pen. But we did a cast the other day where one player was sort of knocked off their starting position, lost all their buildings, and relocated to a different island, and then helped their team by building only submarines. So let's see if the magic can get recreated in this one. It's going to be a 2 deep defense line of these artillery pieces. Once these things are set up, this is going to be a very tough position for red and blue to break. It's still just a combination of artillery and infantry and commandos that are pushing for Alpha Team. Power plant now for Antidote, which will keep these submarines running once they're created, and some of the boats. And another very intense situation. This is a lot of artillery from blue and red. And the defensive line, the artillery wasn't able to really get situated in this defensive line quite quick enough with how close this blue and red army was. And now Desiring's going to take this transport boat and start sending units down to the bottom left, which over time is a big deal because it will give Alpha Team way more economy. Helicopters here, there's no SAMs. There's these 2 in the back for blue that are showing up momentarily, but until then the helicopters get free reign. Might be able to give Infenzia enough time to back up and build another defensive line. Also a 4th factory now for Orange. And there's 2 refineries for Infenzia, so there's no risk of these helicopters running out of gas. The cruisers are doing a great job in the water, forcing some of these artillery pieces to stop and attack the cruisers instead of pushing forward at this defensive line. But this is so many units for Alpha Team. And a rocket from Antidote on this top left island. That could actually be a huge play. It's definitely within range of Alpha Team's starting location and could destroy a bunch of buildings because the grouping is pretty tight. And again, Infenzia is going to drop back even further towards their base And this is about as far back as Orange can go without giving up some buildings. Red's struggling with some energy, but is setting up a second refinery. And then it'll be just a question of whether Red can destroy the submarine pen. They won't be able to see this launch pad. There's no way. That launch pad is too far inland to be spotted by boats, or at least only a small grouping of boats. And the beep beep we hear is Antidote running out of energy. Might be able to micro this one cruiser to get by this Red Navy, which is still struggling with the energy stuff. Which, unfortunately for Desiring, they might actually just watch this refinery die. If this Teal cruiser can get there. With the help of 3 cruisers, 2 of which are super damaged though, so it's kind of tough. When these orange cruisers move in, they might just get destroyed immediately from these artillery pieces. But it's all about buying time to mount more of a defense. There's 3 SAMs here. They're going to be able to clear up this helicopter. There's another helicopter on the airport. And unfortunately for Orange, they actually lose that. And now Alpha Team's on the bottom left island and has nearly capped the entire leftmost island. The 2 damaged cruisers are destroyed. But the reinforcements are sort of thinning out. The next major push is this group of units. Infensia's got 4 factories fully set up. There's still only 2 SAMs here for blue. And the rocket is now on the stand for Antidote, who builds another power plant. And will be building up a bunch of submarines. And might be able to surprise Alpha Team when a bunch of subs show up. And they'll be able to destroy those refineries super quick. We'll see if that comes into play. And there's no more SAMs here for blue, and there's no more on the way. There's no production of SAMs for Alpha Team, so it's just artillery and infantry. It's just now a question of whether 2 helicopters with the 3rd one on the way is going to be enough for Infensia to hold this. At the moment, and for now, Infensia will keep this northernmost factory alive. The helicopters have to go land to reload. And I think although Infensia might lose a building, I think this will be held. Desiring is capping a bunch of the map and continuing to reinforce this bottom left island. It's a very cruiser-heavy navy, so we might see that Red builds a 3rd refinery in that water location pretty quickly. 1 factory goes down for Orange. The 2nd one likely will. Doesn't look like this is in all that great of a state. But Orange has 3 helicopters, a 4th one on the way, still no SAMs that have been built by Alpha Team. There's 3 from blue. And the rocket, this is so important. Nearly 3/4 of the way done. 2nd submarine pen now from Antidote in the top left. And when this rocket lands, depending on where it is, it might actually knock Bigler down to just 2 units. Or 2 producers, pardon me, 2 buildings. Because I assume that this is going to be the landing spot for this rocket, is on these blue factories. Infensia has lost the front 2 factories, rebuilding 2 barracks in the back. But slowly thinning this out. Submarine pen now for Infensia using the, I believe it's an advanced topic. in the tutorials that you can find in-game, which is foreign shore construction. This water territory is owned by Infenzia. Of course, the land is not. But if you own the water territory, you can build a building on the shoreline. And let's actually see if Alpha Team can see this. Alpha Team cannot. There's these red infantry aren't close enough to spot, and in the fog of war you don't actually get to see. Then Fenzi has put that down, so very sneaky. There's now one SAM here for blue. The rocket's on the way. And this is where we will see if the momentum shifts at all in this game. It's going to get probably 4 buildings. And it does, which will leave Bigler on just 1 barracks, 1 factory. Alpha Team's now on 2 factories, 4 barracks on this main landmass. Bigler immediately builds a factory very close, which is probably a very good call. It's a little bit exposed to the helicopters, but as long as there's enough blue SAMs that can hang out here and defend, it would be okay. An Antidote is going to make another rocket. The 4 subs are now out on the map. This 1 cruiser and missile boat wouldn't be able to see those submarines even if they were right above them. And very slowly, Infenzia is pushing this back and holding on. It is 3 factories and a barracks that were destroyed for blue, so that thins out the push considerably. And it's important to note that Bigler is still really on just a few territories, so the income isn't all that high. We can check the exact numbers. It's 425 for blue, 685 for red, 474 for orange, and 370 for teal. Infenzia now has 5 helicopters, actually a 6th just popped out. The sound we hear is the submarines in the north, which are going to get another refinery, the last refinery for Desiring. I guess Desiring just built this and is building this southernmost refinery, probably sensing that this one might die. That is a lot of submarines, and they'll clear out the refinery super quickly. We'll see if Orange's decision is to just push through this, or just to get forward and then build a defensive line or something, or just take a more defensive posture. But I believe with this many helicopters, then Infenzia would be super successful in this next push. Town on the far left for red, who's capped nearly the bottom. Top down, this is what we're looking at. Blue is Alpha Team, orange is Bravo Team. Probably wasn't even long enough to even get an idea. There's still a lot of territory on the right-hand side of the map that hasn't been capped. This second rocket for Antidote is a pretty big deal. Infenzia's vision shows that there are some blue factories, so this might be the location that the rocket will land. And a 3rd power plant now for Antidote to power both the rocket, which needs 20 to launch, and then all of these submarines. Bigler's building another factory, committing to the pressure of pushing Infenzia, who now has a very respectable amount of helicopters. There's 3 SAMs that are done by this forward factory. There's about to be a 4th. And now Infenzia is going to send the helicopters down south, seeing that there's some SAMs up here. Great movement from Desiring to build or bring some missile boats here. Because I assume Infenzia is going to move these down and try to launch an attack across towards where blue and red started, just like we saw earlier. Alpha Team still doesn't see the sub-pen. The stealth characteristic of the building itself coming in huge here. And Infenzia backs up, and there's another rocket now complete for Antidote. Probably just deciding where to put it at this point. The missile boats for red get super close to the shore so that they can start picking off these helicopters. The helicopters are going to try to attack into this. They will maybe get one missile boat, probably won't get two. And unfortunately pretty expensive. And in one quick moment, most of the yellow helicopters go down. Maybe one will get out. And this leaves orange with just two helicopters. Rocket is in the central location, which is probably going to prompt Infenzia to push if all of these units for Alpha Team die. Most of them do, only one SAM is left. And the soundtrack music starts playing, so you know something's going to happen. Another rocket for Antidote. And this is the moment where Desiring is going to try to go up around north to destroy these two submarine pens. Alpha Team can't see the submarine pens, but probably can make a decent guess that that is where they are. The one problem about these blue, or these red cruisers moving is that it opens up these submarines to snipe one of the gases. And Desiring does need that gas to really keep these boats moving. The beep beep is Desiring running out of energy. Infenzia snipes this bottom refinery. So it's really just red on one refinery. It's going to be on one refinery after this second one is destroyed. Which will stop all these red boats momentarily. And it's a good amount of subs for Antidote, who may just hang out here to keep sniping all these three different refinery locations that red keeps trying to build. The tables have turned. Infenzia is now on these two factories, two barracks, all these units that have been pooling up. A pretty sizable push. This one blue factory is in a lot of trouble. It probably won't produce a unit before it's destroyed. And the cruisers from the shore still picking off artillery pieces. Still no detection of the submarine pen for Alpha Team. Real tough position. There's more subs on the way for Antidote. Still building two at a time. Rocket is nearly halfway done. And Antidote's also having a bit of an energy problem on just like what's going to be 4 power plants momentarily. Which is the equivalent of just over 1 refinery. The general math is 3 power plants are equal to the energy output of just 1 refinery. But it remains to be seen if Alpha Team is going to be able to defend against all of these units for Infenzia. Especially considering that there is another rocket being built. And I think if we let this run to the conclusion, it's that Infenzia is going to push all the way down this peninsula. Submarines for Orange destroy this last red cruiser, which clears out Desiring Mars from this bottom sea. And now Antidote pushes with all of these submarines. There is a destroyer here for red, but it's just a numbers game. There's way more subs. They'll be able to destroy that boat and then destroy these red docks. And then with Micro, these submarines could run up here and destroy all of these cruisers. An overall tough situation for Alpha Team at this point. What a swing. Bigler's out of the game. GG. Well played. And let's check some graphs. It'll be interesting. I wonder how close this eco was. Empire values very close. Capital generated, I mean, within 300 of both teams. And Alpha Team did have more eco by the end of the game. Well played. Just remember, when you lose your starting position, especially in a team game, down but not out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Check out the Line War Discord if you want to learn more about the game. twitch.tv/SodaQuackers. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, all of it. Helps the channel grow. Good luck, have fun on ladder. Hope you have a wonderful night, day, evening, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is. See you around. Peace. Peace.